to talk to you guys about today is getting your own business going with your photography. Whether you're planning to be a pro or not, that's actually an important topic. But before that, let me just introduce myself. If you don't know who I am, I'm Marc Silber. I'm an author of several books, one of them being this book here, Create, in Carmel, California. And our show is brought to you by our friends at Bay Photo Lab. So what have they got here? Fine art prints. So these are really cool, you guys. These are high-end prints, museum quality. Um, they even have edges that can be have some texture, like are hand worn, which is cool. That's a cool thing you can do, and you can get 25% off on those. I suggest after the show you go over there and order at least one of those. And 10% off on all frame prints. Super handy when you're selling your work to just get the whole thing done by Bay Photo Lab. Let them do the prints, let them frame the prints, and let them send them out to your clients or send them to you and put them on your own wall. And you can get 20% off on thin wraps. So take advantage of one of these discounts. And as always, if you've never ordered something from them, you get 25% off on your first order. Use Bay Photo Lab. Jeff, you introduced me to them a long, long time ago when they were in a little tiny place in Aptos or something, and now they're in a huge place. So you introduced me to Larry, the boss, and he's built this thing up, and it's just a friggin' remarkable setup. So one of the things you can do with them, and I'll show you later, is you can use them on your website to actually make prints. You don't have to touch anything. Somebody orders, boom, it goes there. Okay, well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I want to talk to you guys about approaching photography as a business. And if you're looking at this and you've read Create and you've got another kind of art form that you want to get into business-wise, everything I'm going to talk about will apply to any creative activity. Why is it so important to look at this as a business? Well, there's a tremendous satisfaction when you sell something. You put your stuff out there and it gets likes and people say you really did a good job and this is great. And if you've ever done a show, you may have experienced this phenomena where people like applaud your work and they think it's great and then they walk right on past it. But when somebody stops and says, I like that print, I want to buy it, it's the highest compliment you can get. And it's the most, I think, important reward because you are giving them something that they consider valuable enough and interesting enough, whatever it is, to say, here's some money, I want to put it on my wall. And you've done an exchange with them that's very important. And we know how important it is, obviously, to elevate and go in that direction, whether or not you're going to make this your sole career. I suggest that you approach it in that professional mentality. Think about it like, I want to make this into a business. Now, I'm going to tell you one thing right now. I had an art teacher, and this is a really, really common misconception. My art teacher in grade school said, don't try to sell your work. You should only do it kind of for your own personal satisfaction. Blah, blah, blah. That is the biggest pile of poop because it's absolutely untrue. In fact, every great artist, what do? They sell their work. Every great artist, that we know, I mean, unfortunately, Van Gogh only sold one painting apparently to his brother. Well, he had poor marketing. The guy was obviously a genius, but just had no marketing. But, that's kind of an anomaly. It's not like every artist out there was really super successful during their lifetime, but they put their work out. And getting an engagement with a person who's viewing your work or is going to use your work, put your work on the wall or put it in a magazine is actually really thrilling. It really is. I consider it absolutely an amazing experience. And not every piece of money is like every piece of money. So if you sell a print for $500, let's say, that feels really good. It feels like way more than $500. Maybe you can make $500 doing something else. You had to sweat it out and maybe go mow a bunch of lawns or whatever you're doing when you're a kid. And, that's a lot of hard work. And the print, it was a lot of hard work too, but there's something very thrilling about that interchange. So I want to encourage you, no matter where you are, move to that next step. So I've got some tips that are going to help you, and they're in my book, Create, which is on its way to a new printing, which is really cool, 2022. And we should have it soon. So one thing is when you look at yourself, it's really important to visualize yourself as an artist. With the power of visualization, it encompasses everything. It encompasses you as an artist, what you want to do with your work, where you want to go with it. And the first thing you need to do is decide what you want to focus on. That's important because if you're not focused in your art, you're kind of all over the place. And people will really not know who you are and what you're all about. And I give examples in the book, like the Beatles. Now, they produced a wide variety of genres in their music. If you listen to it, it's anything from, simple rock and roll band to country and western to psychedelic rock to, beautiful melodies like single voice, like Yesterday with Paul McCartney. None of the other Beatles sang on that. And that was really unusual. And it was just basically him and a guitar. And then George Martin added the strings and stuff. But they had a lot of different genres, but really their core. And Paul McCartney said, I just thought we were a really good rock and roll band. So at the core, that was their genre. That's what launched their career, and they kept coming back to it. And you still listen to Paul McCartney out there. He's a rock and roll guy, he has all these other things, but he gets on the stage, plays his bass, he's got his band behind him, and he's still known for that genre. Annie Leibovitz is known for her celebrity photography. Bob Holmes is known for travel photography. Find your niche and develop it. That's actually really important because that's where, when you're developing your business, you want to be able to go out there and say, I'm whatever. What's your passion? You're a wedding photographer? Awesome, go for it. Travel photography? Go for it. Landscapes? Go for it. Portraiture? Whatever it is, but really focus. And this is an important tool. It's what we do as photographers. We focus. We're using that lens to tell the story. What do we want to focus on? What do we want to blur out? And it's the same thing in your art. You got to decide where you want to put your energy. And maybe later you can develop a second genre. But Ansel Adams, what was he known for? He did do portraiture, and some of it is really awesome. But you don't think of Ansel Adams as a portrait photographer. You think of him as a landscape photographer. And one thing, as a side note to Ansel, I'll make this point. He said he did a lot of commercial work and he really enjoyed doing it. He did stuff for Standard Oil, which is really kind of amusing because he was an incredible natural photographer. Like you look at Yosemite, you look at his photographs of the Grand Tetons or whatever. But here he was photographing these man-made oil tanks. And also, he was an environmentalist. So he's using money from Standard Oil to fuel his environmental campaign. And, that's pretty cool when you can do that. So don't be afraid of taking on commercial projects at all. In fact, I encourage you to do that because that'll help you. So maybe your genre is, let's say, fine art landscapes. But you you haven't really gotten that going yet. Well, keep whatever going you can in terms of commercial work, whether it's portraiture or weddings or whatever it is. Just go for it, and then develop your passion project, which is your fine art photography. It's all about creating your brand. Al Reese, great guru of branding, said a brand is a singular idea or concept that you own inside the mind of a prospect. I gave you examples. Annie Leibovitz owns celebrity photography. Ansel Adams owns, the grandmaster of outdoor photography. He owns that space. You can own whatever it is in your prospect's mind by being singular. Get narrowed down, find that thing that you're passionate about, and then go out and start telling people about it. You have to kind of get into the role before it's going to catch on with other people. You have to sell yourself first. I've noticed this, by the way, in business. The first guy I've got to sell, the first person I have to sell is me. So true. Like sometimes I approach a project, I'm not so sure. I'm not sure what I should charge them. And I don't want to charge them too much. And I don't want to charge too little. And I'm kind of on the fence about the whole thing. I haven't sold myself yet. So if I haven't sold myself, I'm never going to sell the prospect. You have to be absolutely dead certain about what you're doing, how much you're charging, why you're doing this. It's all starts here. This is all part of your visualization. And I find often when I'm putting together a quote for a client that I sift through these little kind of negative thoughts and get rid of them and arrive at something that actually makes sense. And the funny thing is they'll never question it, because I've actually arrived at the correct dollar amount. The project I got it all figured out in my mind. It's written down. Everything you do, by the way, whatever you do, whether you're putting your work in a gallery or a magazine or whatever, make sure you do have it in writing so you know what to expect. What's customary when you put your work on consignment is 50%, which is fine. I'm happy with that because they're going to show the work. I make the product. I give it to them. They do all the other stuff. You want to find out and name and call out your mission as an artist. Like, what are you there to do? What are you trying to accomplish? Very important. Get a narrow a mission statement, though. Don't make it 12 pages. It's like that's what you're going to be rolling off when people ask you, well, what do you do? I'm a portrait photographer. I love taking pictures of people. In fact, I am an environmental portrait photographer, which means I photograph people in their own environment. What I just said is way too long. I take pictures of people in their own environment. My mission is to show them as they are. Again, you can pare that down. But you should develop your own mission statement. Very important, because you've heard this thing about the elevator pitch. You're in an elevator and somebody asks, what do you do? You've got 15 seconds to answer that question. You could be very mundane about, I'm a photographer, and lose any opportunity. I'm a photographer and I'm really passionate about photographing people. What? I'm actually looking for a portrait photographer right now. So you had that 15 seconds, you connected, you found something. Hey, maybe nothing happens. But the more times you say what you do and you speak your passion, the more opportunities you have to connect with somebody who wants exactly what you have. And it's not just from your mouth. This is using all your tools to connect with people. We'll talk about some of those here in a minute. You want to develop your voice, and that comes from just doing a lot of work. You're not going to develop it in a week. You might hit on the core thing, but you want to it takes some time to get your voice. Like, what is it? You look at a Bob Holmes photograph, you can see that's a Bob Holmes photograph, right? It just hits you over the head. Dan Milner, you can see that's a Dan Milner photograph. And you certainly know from his videos, this is a Milner video. It's a brand. It's a Bob Holmes video. It's a Marc Silber video. There's a brand to it. And it's easily recognized. So you want to develop that. And that comes from volume. It really does. Writing, learning how to write, it's a volume thing. You have to put out lots and lots and lots of words until you feel comfortable about stringing them together and having them represent you. Very important. Obviously, social media is a tool. I use it as a tool for marketing primarily. I don't think of it as a place where I'm really showing serious work. I don't expect people to linger very long, because in social media, we're scrolling and we're going past things really quickly. And if somebody stops and likes it, or better yet, leaves a comment, well, you've gotten some interchange and engagement. But it's nothing like having your work on the wall, or in a book, or in a magazine, or even on a card, to have people stop and really take it in. Very important. But I do believe social media has its use. And if you think of it as, when you go to Baskin Robbins and you get that little ice cream scoop, okay, it has value, right? You're not going to stay there all day and go, would you give me, you're on your 13th ice cream little tiny spoon. They're going to look at you after a while and go, dude, look, pick one of these flavors and get out of here. Social media is your little pink ice cream spoon, and that's all it is. And maybe you can generate some interest. Maybe you generate a following, fine. But it's this tiny little scoop. It has a value, okay? And it's certainly not the only way you get your work out to the world. And it's way overrated, and it has its pitfalls that we've discussed. And many of you have gone off. I know you've told me you've gone off social media. That's fine. I feel like it still has a use, and if you use it correctly, you can actually get benefit and lead people to a better viewing experience, ideally. Okay, I have part 2 coming up. I want to discuss this more with you guys, but I want to kind of recap. Visualize yourself as an artist. Put yourself out there. Put your mission statement together. Make it really short and concise. What are you most passionate about? What are you most focused on in terms of you as a photographer, in terms of your business? That's your homework. You got your notebook. Take your notebook out, write these things down, and work them until it all flows. And then go around and start saying it to people. There's an interesting thing, and when people are writing a book or coming up with an idea for a movie, they got to vocalize it. Start saying it to the people that you trust the most, and they can say, I don't get it. That's really dumb. Or that's great. Whatever it is, you want a response from them so that, if they don't get it, they don't get it. It's on you. Just like you're responsible for everything in the frame, you're also responsible for everything that comes out of your mouth. So if they don't get it, go back, revise until they get it. And then eventually it will start to click. And you will don the robes of your chosen genre, your chosen career as an artist or a photographer. When you put on that robe and you believe in yourself, all the world is a stage. William Shakespeare. You're on stage. Once you know that and you put yourself there and you start telling people what your role is, some magic starts to occur. Hope that makes sense. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, because I know it's true, but I want to see if you have experience with that. Please let me know. Leave a comment. Okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like, share, and don't forget, remember to get out and capture your own images of life.